Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever and whenever you are joining us. The long summer break is over. The jump season kicks off this weekend in Wales, and it is so good to have National Hunt Racing back in the prime time. The warmest of welcomes to everyone to our third season here on the Big Five Racing Podcast. And for the first time, welcoming all of you onto YouTube. We really are kicking into the 21st century now. For any of you who may be joining us for the first time, my name is Harrison Ferris, your resident host, and I'll be here guiding you through the next 6 months or so, right through to the spring festivals with so much action between now and then to come. Joining me once again this year after some stern negotiations are two men who started this journey with me a year ago. They're still here now. A man with, by a stone's throw, the most intelligent racing mind I personally know. He's led up Grade 1 festival winners at Cheltenham and had great successes up and down the country. Fantastic to have him on as well. Back with Matty Blackmore as well. Alongside that, I've got a man who, in terms of betting knowledge, if you're here to try and make some money, to get some good tips and some really good insight into how the betting markets work and how to pick those winners come March and April, we've also managed to bring in Harry Cotterill as well. Not a great start for me, Cotty, I'll be honest, last week with the graphics over on our socials. It didn't quite work out how I wanted it to for some reason. You didn't look like you. I've followed at the first there, but we've got an absolutely huge season coming up ahead of us, and I'm sure you're as ready for me to just get this thing rocking and rolling for 25.
Yeah, definitely. They always say the start of the jump season is this Chepstow meeting. So yeah, it'd be good to get it underway. Shame there's not a bit more rain around to see maybe some classier horses, but nonetheless, it looks a good weekend's racing and starting on the Friday through to Sunday looks good. I'd imagine the ground might be a bit tacky and whatnot come R4 on Sunday, but no, looking forward to it.
Yeah, already looking out for ground conditions, the way the weather's been recently, so hopefully we can get some rain going into our Chepstow races, which we'll be covering shortly. Matty, the long, flat stretch domestically starting to wind down now. We've just got Champions Day, future champions left to come over in American Dubai then for the rest of the season. I suppose, really, this is probably the most exciting time of the season outside of the spring festivals because we're looking at the anomalies, the unknowns. We're trying to crack things at big prices come the end of the year, but equally, there's so many different trends to look forward to, isn't there, between now and when we get there. We kick off quite strong this weekend, and really more than that, it's just nice to have jumps racing back in the prime time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you summed it up quite well there. I think for me, it's been a quiet summer with regards to racing. I've not watched a lot. I struggled to get into the flat racing, but you can see that winter's just round the corner, and going through the entries at Chepstow is quite exciting. There's some good names out, and like Cot said, there's plenty more to look forward to when we get that bit of rain, and it's an exciting time of year for all jumps fans.
Absolutely. I suppose the biggest spike of emphasis this year is going to be on that trainer's title as well, and I wanted to come to you for that. And it really had started from day one, didn't it? Willie Mullins, of course, is chasing his third in a row, and I suppose when the spring festivals come around, that's obviously when he makes his big stamp. Dan Skelton, clearly the best trainer in the UK right now by some distance. See if that changes, of course, if Nichols and Henderson can get into the picture a bit more. But really, Dan is going to need every cent between now and probably the start of Christmas, isn't he? And there's a lot of faith, I'm sure, with the yard that they can really go this year and try and finally get that trainer's title he's been so desperate for.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, I'm sure Dan will be doing everything he can between now and the major festivals to get as much prize money on the board. And then, when you get to the likes of Cheltenham and Aintree, and even Ayr, I think you're just kind of hoping for that bit of luck and hoping that Willie, doesn't fire in 1, 2, 3s like he was last year. But yeah, I can imagine there's plenty of excitement at Dan's. I've heard about a lot of new recruits there. They've spent a lot of money through the summer, and some really big names, especially owners wise, coming in. So yeah, it's going to be a great season. To be honest, I can't see anyone threatening Dan from this side of the Irish Sea. I think Paul Nichols should have a better season than last season, but I still don't think he's got the firepower to turn it round. And Henderson, just with the way he's a bit cautious about running his horses, and I don't think the Trainers' Championship's really at the forefront of his mind. So I think Dan's definitely gonna win the race this side of the Irish Sea, but it's all going to depend on Willie Mullins ultimately.
Absolutely fantastic battle that we'll be taking you throughout the entire season, see how things go all the way up to Sandown right at the end of the season. All right, then, before we dive into this week's races for all the way from Wales, we're going to give you 2 horses each that we're going to give you now to kind of follow throughout the entire jump season. One entering novice or juvenile company on either side of the discipline, and then we'll match that with an open company horse as well, worth keeping your eye on. We also have a couple of anti-post festival selections to come for you at the very end of the show from Cheltenham 2 this week from the Boodles Gold Cup, so we're going for the big one right off the start. We'll get straight into it then with the novices then for 25 and 26. Of course, plenty of the horses that you're looking out for here come from the bumpers from last season and any maybe from point-to-point company that might have caught the eye. Matty, I'll come right back to you for this as well. There's so many. I suppose it really you're looking at horses that impressed in bumpers that might be showing signs of life from home, and really I suppose with novices you're looking at the market more than anything. If something's kind of being dragged in from 40s to 20s for the Supreme, it must be because they've done some good work either in the summer or at home. I'd be interested to see if anything's really caught your eye from stuff that's going into novice company this year.
Yeah, so for followers from last season, this is a horse I was quite keen on for the champion bumper at Cheltenham. No drama this end, trained by Paul Nicholls, ran creditably in the champion bumper, beaten 9 lengths. Won his first bumper on his first start for Paul at Warwick, beating a nice horse of Dan Skelton's, Keops to Boards, and they pulled nicely clear of the third. And Paul has come out and said, had quite glowing reviews of this horse and, potentially hoping he could be a shallow hurdle horse. And we know how well he's done with the likes of Brave Man's Game, Stage Star, etc. It's a race that he will target. And I think this horse looks every bit set for that. So you'd imagine to see him start out in a low key maiden hurdle, probably somewhere like Taunton or Exeter potentially. And then, you'd like to see him go and win first time out and then build from there. But I think he's definitely a horse to keep on side of this season for me.
Really crucially, he has a lot of good novices coming out this year. No drama this end. The one you fancy the most to make a big impact when it matters the most. Caught straight back to you then. I mean, it is more difficult, I suppose, in the open company because there's more guesswork more than anything. It's like 2-year-olds on the flat. You're kind of looking at pedigrees and specific bits of form. I think it's always good to go to like a big trainer or a big yard for something like this. Really interested to see what your novice for 25-26 is.
Mine's going to be a novice chaser. Ran a good race in the Albert Bartlett at the Cheltenham Festival. Wendigo for Jamie Snowden. Gavin Sheehan gets on really well with the horse. I did see he had an interview the other day. I think it was on Race Day TV or something. He said he was really looking forward to getting this horse over fences. And you look at the horse and you can just tell that he was always going to be a better chaser than he was hurdler. I think he is actually entered at Chepstow on Sunday, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on there. Maybe might need a bit more give in the ground, being the type of horse he is, but hopefully he takes his chance, jumps well, and then he'll have something to build on throughout the season.
Yeah, it was a little bit impounded, wasn't he, in that Albert Bartlett last year, but ran a really good race under the circumstances. Wendigo's going to be on plenty of people's lists, and interesting to see that it's on yours as well. I've gone for one from Nicky Henderson's yard. We only seen it once last year. That's Laguna Beach. Ran in the Punchestown bumper at the end of the season at the Punchestown Festival, of course. Finished 5th there. That was on debut, a bit of a big price. Michael Buckley doesn't really tend to have a whole host of horses, and typically he's obviously very keen on buying big ones. Constitution Hill, of course, comes to mind. We'll be mentioning his name plenty throughout the season. Not a lot to go off. Hopefully this horse goes straight into novice hurdling, and we manage to see something that's able to jump well. Nicky Henderson, if it's a good horse, he'll get it running well. It's 4 as well, so it could go straight into juvenile company as well. But Laguna Beach is the one that I really came off the page for me, and one I'm hoping is going to really shine come the back end of the season. Into the open company horses then. This is a bit easier, I suppose, because a lot of these have transitioned from novice hurdling, novice chasing out of the juvenile company, that we had some fantastic juveniles last year. So you're really leaving yourself open company. Of course, the races are more difficult, but that is why it is a lot more exciting. Caught run straight back to you with this then. So a lot of open company horses, there's a whole range of things you can go for here, really. Who's the one really that caught your eye as a novice last year, perhaps, that's going straight into the big boys?
I suppose you'd have to look at Lalamba, I think, from the Triumph form. You know, pin was it pin off Pinaros that won
Yes.
the race? Yeah, I think that was a
Honor.
bit of a fluke result, and I think Nico de Boinville seemed to thought after jumping the last that the race was his. I just think he's got the potential to be anything really, and it's a bit of an easy one, but yeah, throw him in.
There you go. What a massive season that horse might have, been talked up so much. Matty, are you going for one of the big hype horses from last year, or is there something else that you like?
Kind of. I mean, this horse I fell in love with last year. She just progressed and progressed. Didn't lose a race from since joining Gordon Elliott from Sir Michael Stout, and it's Wadu. Beaten second on her last start by Lossy Mouth, only beaten 2 3/4 lengths. I don't think that's anything to be put off by. I think, running second to Lossy Mouth's a superb run, but up until that, just progress. Won the last race of the festival, the Martin Pipe, a race that Gordon Elliott really needed because he had a torrid festival, and the interview he did after was quite an emotional one for him. Really, I've not really seen Gordon like that before. So, and I just think this horse, like these mares that are just battle hardened and they just give their all, and you can't beat them. And I'm sure she's in for a great season. I imagine she'll end up at the Mares' Hurdle at Cheltenham, and whether Lossy Mouth's there or not, she'll give her a hell of a race. And if Lossy Mouth's not there, I think she'll take all the beating. I'd just love to see her carry on that upward trajectory that she took off with last year. So yeah, she's one that's she's the one for me this season.
Ran an absolute stormer on that Aintree hurdle, really pushed Lossiemouth to the line after Constitution Hill's fall. That's the second mention for Con Hill already in the podcast. One who I think is a very, very exciting horse to look forward to this year.
We could do a whole podcast on Constitution Hill at some point this season, couldn't we?
I think we'll have a few. Really exciting to see when and where he comes back, if that's Newcastle in a few weeks' time. But I think who's a fantastic pick there. I really do, and I think she's definitely bound for the mares, and hopefully she is able to take that if Lossiemouth defects to the Champion Hurdle. My one's a little bit more of a smaller name, comes from the Irish side, but we've seen plenty of her last year. It's Blue Devassi. Won her bumper at the sort of back end of the 24-25 season, had 4 appearances last year, won her maiden fantastically, and then went on to win a grade 3 at Navan quite nicely as well at short price. Not at her brilliant best then in the other 2 performances, when went to grade 1s at Leopardstown, was second at Christmas and then 6th of 10 at the Dublin Racing Festival as well. The Kopek de Board, of course, blew them away in that one. So really, I suppose Kopek de Board is going to be in my mind quite a bit this year. I'm hoping the form lines will follow through. I think Blue Devassi, if she goes chasing this year, or if she stays over hurdles, I think is one to really keep us on side as well. I think you're going to get some nice prices. Jigginstown have kind of reduced over the summer some of the horses, and they've kind of scoped very specifically what they want to do. They want to target big races. They want to try get Brighter Days Ahead back to, if not the Champion Hurdle, the Aintree Hurdle and races like that. So anything they're keeping on side of, I think Jigginstown are going to have a massive season this year. And she's one that stood out for me from the get-go of the start of the season. On to then this week's first edition of the Big 5 races. They all come from lovely sunny Wales. Chepstow, of course, have created this 3-day festival to bring life to the start of the season for many of us. And the reason the podcast is back now is because really Chepstow is the start of the jump season for plenty of us. We've got 5 races from you across the weekend there. Bit of a mix, bit of a bag for everything. We've got, of course, some great novice races coming up. We've got some veterans chases, some big handicaps as well. Something for everyone, and you'll get a nice little bonus in the prize column as well. The first race we're going to bring you is from the Veteran Series, the Friday race there, the 312. And really interesting, I suppose, with these races, Matty. If you talk about establishment and having form lines, I suppose nothing gives you that quite like the veterans do. Lamilos tops the market here at 7-2 for the Skelton boys. Usually runs his best races near the end of the season, so wherever you'd go with him, I'm not too sure. But there's a lot of sort of favourites in here, I suppose, isn't there? And it's a fantastic incentive too.
Yeah, it's a really good to see the old boys still strutting their stuff, and it gives them a bit of a more of a chance to win in veterans company racing against their own age group. From a betting perspective, not much of a betting race for me. I mean, it's kind of a race you just enjoy and watch, and these veterans, they kind of pick and choose the days they turn up, and it's very hard to catch them, right on their day. I just thought an entry that intrigued me was Tullybeg from Gordon Elliott. Sean Bowen already jocked up on, which again, I'm sure we'll get on to talking about Sean Bowen at some point, or if not a later podcast. But that in itself is going to pull a lot of people towards that horse. Just the man is riding. He seems to be getting better at each season, which, considering he was champion jockey last year, you wouldn't think is possible. But yeah, he's absolutely flying. A horse that didn't show a lot really, but was second on his last start over hurdles. And that was only 42 days ago. So fitness isn't going to be an issue, which I'm going to speak about later. But I think it's important this time of the year, while the ground's on the better side, maybe keeping the horses that have had a run on side, and maybe some of those later summer jumpers like Flying Fortune, who won the Persian War last year. Trying to keep them on side for a meeting like this is going to be key. So priced around 10 to 1 at the moment. Obviously, we're still waiting for decks. But I wouldn't be put off by anything. The fact Gordon's sending it over and Sean Bowen's up, and 10 to 1's quite a nice price. Might just flutter into the places. So yeah, that'll be one for me.
Yeah, plenty of loyalty has been shown to Sean Bowen by Gordon Elliott over the years, and of course now Sean is at the very top of the game, arguably both either side of the Irish Sea. It's great to see him getting more rewards here. 10 to 1 for Tullybeg, coming over in the Bective stud colours for Team Ireland. Similarly, we kind of covered most of the points there, really, about you have to catch these on the right day. It can be a bit of a mixed breed, but there's plenty of horses for courses here. 3 of them have got course wins. Just interested to see your angle for the vets.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can definitely take on the favourite here in Lemilos. Like you said earlier on, seems to do most of its better runs at the back end of the season. His last 2 reappearances off long layoffs, he's came 3rd and 5th. So at 7 to 2, I'll be willing to take that on. I do think Courtland has got a good chance here. It's one of the horses that has run most recently and has been running throughout the summer. Very consistent horse. Runs off a mark of 134. Has won off a mark of 142. So the mark's not too high. There's still wiggle room in there. James Bowen and Mickey Bowen have been on fire, just like Sean as well. So that's a good trainer jockey combination. Local track at Chepstow as well. They'll be looking to get this one home, I think. Man of the People, not consistent enough for me really to be taking my money. Lord Accord feels like, obviously it is a veterans race, but he always crops up, doesn't he? And I think that Nocator Velázquez isn't a good enough jumper for me. Seems to balloon one, and he has got a couple of falls by his name. So I do think Courtland at 4 to 1 is a very strong bet.
Courtland there, the Bowens always, at the very end of the summer season and into the start of the jump, seems to be the best time to find their horses, is when they've got them striking best, possibly just on slightly better ground than usual. And that's exactly what Chepstow's going to offer for Courtland at the weekend. You've given some sort of damning comments there at the end about my selection for this, but you're completely entitled to, I suppose. I am going to take on Nocte Velasquez here at around about 8 to 1 each way. At the start of its career, you couldn't get this thing to win, really. It was struggling in any sort of company. But as it's kind of progressed into its later stages, and twice last year as a 9-year-old, it picked up wins at Uttoxeter and here at Chepstow. And Chepstow is a course I quite like, getting a bit of form if you've won there before. It's not terribly undulating or anything like that, but it's a nice course to have a C beside your name. Won that at a big price. Was shot up £5, went to Ascot, then slightly extended its distance up to 2.5. Ran a fair enough second there, to be fair, off a very high weight. Second again then at Market Raisin, and then I was at Haydock earlier in the year, finished 4th of 6. I had a bet on it that day at short price, a bit silly really from me, but it's been retaining its mark, and it's going to run again here off 130, which I think is more than fallible, to be fair. I mean, there isn't a huge difference in terms of selection from these horses. Any one of them could win. I just thought 8 to 1 shot a bit of value. I'm the same as the boys here. I think Lemilos is the wrong favourite, really. He could turn up and be good. I just think that he's going to want much softer ground much later into the season. Moving on to probably the feature, I suppose the traditional one anyways, from this first weekend's racing. It is the 343 from Chepstow on the Friday, the Dragonbet Persian War Novices Hurdle. It is a Grade 2. Very sort of strong favourite at the very top here, Queensbury Boy. owned and, of course, traditionally ridden by David Maxwell, now retired. Paul O'Brien and Harry Durham are going to team up for this one at 6-4. Stick to the plan at 4-1 for Ollie Murphy and the champion jockey Sean Bowen. Cott, I've got to come right to you for this one because gamble has been the word for this one for the last couple of weeks. We've seen David Maxwell give some very stern comments. It opened up at even money, this one, after he said this was just a horse that was going to go and win the Persian War. Do you believe Mr. David Maxwell?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, the comments from Harry Durham as well, saying that he's mapped it out for this race and, you know, he thinks he can win it. And for what is like the, you know, the proper race to get things underway, you know, last year it was won by Flying Fortune, who was a summer horse. I just think this grade 2 is quite weak, to be honest. The stick to the plan, the second favourite of Ollie Murphy, that's just been brought by them. I do remember it running back end of, might have been May or June. It was turned over at short price in a maiden herd track in Ireland. I think it was Listowel or Kilbeggan or something like that. Has gone on and since won a listed race at Galway, but I don't think that race was you know, a true reflection of the horse's ability. I just think it was a freak result, and I think, you know, if you said it in May or June that horse would be 4-1 for the Persian War, I'd say you're mad. So I'd be willing to take that on. Jack Hyde won some big pots last season, won a valuable pot up at Kelso, so you know that probably deserves to be in the race. Money Garrow for the Scoutons. I think the way Harry Scoutons been riding the last couple of weeks, he's got you know, he's just given him a nice run round, I think. So this will probably have bigger targets, I would imagine, what Harry would think. So yeah, I think Queensbury Bay is pretty rock solid here at 6-4. You know, you got a proper jockey on it now in Paul O'Brien and not David Maxwell. So so I think that's a big plus. If David Maxwell was still riding on this, then I wouldn't be on at 6-4. But now Paul O'Brien's got the leg up due to David Maxwell retiring. I think 6-4 is probably a fair enough price, and hopefully he knows what he's on about.
Yeah, really interesting to see how all of David Maxwell horses get on this season, because we've always talked about it gets brought up so much, doesn't it, Matty, about how if there was better jockeys on board, that the horses would be doing better. There has been instances in the past that I'd agree with that, but not all the time. I think it's a bit extreme, but it's quite sad to see him out of the game, really. Are you going to follow in these big gamble comments from the owner, the trainer, and everybody? 6-4. It feels like a bit of a skinny price, really, for a Persian War, but if the comments are right, this will win.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to be following it myself, but I think the comments from Maxwell are brilliant. I mean, you know, we're all quick to moan when trainers come out after the race and owners and say, "Oh, we knew it was going to win." And to be fair, Maxwell's, you know, put his money where his mouth is, and he thinks it's going to win. And I think that's really good for the sport. I hope, although he's retired from riding, it was you know, painful to watch him ride at sometimes. But I think for the sport, he's really good, and I'd like to see him kept in, even if it was, you know, on ITV once on a Saturday or something. Just, you know, I think he's a character of the sport, and the money that he's pumped in can't go unnoticed. So I think it's, you know, I'd be hopeful that he'll still be about in racing somehow. My selection in the race, I quite like Jack Hyde for Fergal O'Brien and Johnny Burke. This horse is owned by the Paddy Brennan Racing Syndicate. Was very lucky to ride out with Paddy Brennan a bit last season at Dan's, and he's one of the biggest characters I've met, and you won't find a more passionate man about his horses and about racing in general. And I can only imagine that this has been the plan for this horse for quite a while. Had a nice run the other day, just a month ago now, around Newton Abbot, winning nicely under Tom Broughton. Jonathan Burke takes over for this grade 2, and I just think again he might just be one of these summer horses this is his time of year, and you know, this could be his big target. Whereas, like Cott referred to, I can imagine Money Garrow's got bigger objectives down the line. And as for the favourite, I think it's just a bit too short for a first run of the season, on ground that's going to be quick enough. I'm happy to take on the 6-4 favourite, and I think 6-1 around Jack Hyde is fair enough. And the form of the fourth in the conditional jockeys race at Aintree reads really, really well. I mean, She's a Saint won that day, who we had Tristan on the podcast, and he thought she'd run well. We didn't think she'd go and win at 25-1, but she did. And you had the likes of Celtic Dino in third, Alm the Lamb for Ollie Murphy, who went and won a novice chase. You boxed on Sunday, quite a decent novice chase actually. So I think the form's there for Jack Hyde, and I think this could be the big target for this horse. So I'm going to go with him at 6-1.
I like those form lines, and I like the Fergal O'Brien syndicate as well. They seem to have a good day out whenever they go racing as well. So Jack Hyde there, 6-1 for you in the Persian War. I've got a new British recruit that's come over from Ireland here, Crack, in the double green of Simon Munir and Isaac Swade, currently about a 10-1 shot. Last seen in Cork just before it went from Stuart Crawford over to Nigel and Willie Twiston Davis, where it'll start its career this side of the water. Won that Cork handicap as well at 9-1, was shot up £12 for it, so was always going to go immediately into graded company here. Not a whole lot of runs, obviously, to bring you that he's only had 4 so far, 3/3, and that win last time out, probably just, I suppose, the unknown really in this field. I mean, if there's improvement to be had by any of them, it's probably him. It's interesting, I suppose, this side of the this side of Christmas. I'm very hesitant to really get stuck into novice races. I know there's good money to be made if you know what you're doing, and maybe this Queensbury boy is just as good as everyone's been talking about. Has some good form lines there as well, so maybe it is the right favorite. I just don't think, I agree with Matty, I just don't think the price is right, to be honest. So Crack's going to get my money at 10-1 for the Persian War, but it's a bit of a tricky race really to have too big of a punt in. Moving over to the Saturday slate then of the card, just the one race to bring you from the Saturday. The feature there is the 320. It's the Silver Trophy Handicap Hurdle. Joint favourites here at the minute with Josh, the boss, and Royal Infantry, 5-1, each of 2. Carl, I'll come to you for the start of this one then with the handicap hurdle. We like getting handicaps in here. We really do. 2 good horses, I suppose, at the top of the market as well, both 6-year-olds. There's plenty in behind a lot of these kind of older horses, but I mean, you could catch something here at a really nice price. I think it's quite a good handicap, I think, this.
Yeah, you've obviously got Josh the Boss, who won the race last year, but showed nothing since that. So maybe this is their plan to win it again, and then hopefully he can show a bit more throughout the season. Because it's a hard race to win. This it's worth 39,000, and like you said, I'd imagine a lot of people would be targeting it. So for him to win that last season and not go on and do anything else would be a bit disappointing. So they'll be hoping for a different season for that horse. I do like the look here of the Philip Hobbs horse, French Ship. He was run twice around the track. Has come second and first. The time he won round Chepstow, he beat a nice horse of Dan Skelton's in Let It Rain. I think that form's quite good. It's got in off the mark of 128. I know they think a lot of Let It Rain at Skelton, so to beat that horse, just shows the level of horse we're dealing with French Ship. And yeah, I think a mark of 128 is more than capable of getting his head in front off a mark of that. So yeah, 6-1. I'll have a little go on that each way. You probably get five places hopefully on the day with the boost or 4. So yeah, if it's fully tuned up after 276 days off, then hopefully that'll run well.
A long layoff, but he does run light here at 10-10. Has a course and distance win. French Ship there for Hobbs White. French Ship, nice little selection for you there. My Royal Infantry at one stage last season, suppose at the very top of the year, there was a couple of sort of champion hurdle murmurs, and there was a few sort of there was big comments being made about this horse, and I'm not necessarily saying anything's gone wrong here. And obviously Dan Skelton, the absolute master of handicaps in the UK, has to carry 11 stone 4 here, so it's not the end of the world. Could this be a good one at 5-1, or have you looked elsewhere?
Personally, I've looked elsewhere, but I think Royal Infantry definitely would be within a chance. Ran really well at Perth at the end of the season. Ran well at Aintree as well, actually, but I thought the Perth run was encouraging. Probably travelled a bit too well that day over 3 miles, so coming back to 2.5 and what's sure to be a good run race might just suit this horse. But the one I'm going for, I just mentioned her actually. Tris put her up on the podcast when he came on last year at 25-1, and I'm not going to let her go unnoticed again this time. 20-1. She's a saint. I think it's a fantastic price. You can put a line through the Haydock run and the Plumpton run. I think 2 miles now is probably beyond her limits. I mean, she's done well to win at Aintree, but if you watch that race back, she was never really in it, and she just stayed on and stayed on and stayed on. And I think stepping up to 2.5, I've spoke to Tris about this yesterday, and he thinks that it's sure to suit, and she's in good form. She goes well fresh. I think she ticks a lot of boxes, and a massive price at 20-1. I think it's I don't want to let her go in and win or even place at that price and not have a few quid on. So yeah, she's going to be my selection for the feature on the Saturday.
Yeah, that was brilliant of Tris to come on last year and give us the 25-1 winner of that race as well, and another massive price. I think I'd agree with you. Not necessarily my selection for the race, but 20-1 does seem particularly big there. Tristan Doyle's already jocked up, so best of luck to him at Chepstow at the weekend. I've gone right back to the top of the market for this one, and Cart obviously alluded to a lot of the points about this horse that won it last year, but has since fired 3 blanks. That's Josh the Boss, who's 5-1 for this season after being, I think it was 11s, 12s last year whenever he won it. Won it off 124 last year. Because he's not had the most fantastic run since, he's only been shot up £3 for it, so that's more than capable. I think the conditions as well are all aligning quite nicely for this. Went to Haydock, finished at the back of the telly, but you know what? Like a soft Haydock is always one of the toughest places to try and get a horse home that likes better ground. Pulled up on the soft then again at Newbury, and didn't really show much life then whenever he got good ground at Kempton near the back end of the season. But I just think that the Twiston Davises are likely to have a couple of good shots at the start of the year here, like I mentioned earlier with Crack, and I think that this could land a bit of a nice weekend double for me. I think that horses, like I said, that like Chepstow are very entitled to go and win there again. Hasn't been too badly treated by the handicapper to try and win the same race again. 5-1, a little bit skinny. I think he'll probably be a bit bigger on the day. I can see the Skelton horse coming for a lot of money personally, but I think if you can get 13-2, 7-1 on the day, I think that's a very, very nice price. And I'm holding out on Josh the Boss here to run back the Silver Trophy 12 months on. To the Sunday slate of the card, then we've got a novice race to bring you first. That comes in the form of the Chasers this year in the 242. Usually quite a good race. This, unfortunately for us, has not been priced up just yet. I'd hazard a guess that Blue Kangaroo up 151, looking to get back into the winners' enclosure after winning last time out for Nichols and Harry Cobden, looks fairly set to do that. Matty, obviously Wendigo was mentioned earlier, and I mean, I'm no genius, but I think that might be Cott's selection for this. Blue Kangaroo at the top of the market, presumably anyways, off a massive 151, would have these cleared on ratings by an absolute stone's throw. Would you agree with that for this horse coming into Novice Chase Company this season?
Yeah, I think he's obviously a very good hurdler. Probably not quite the Grade 1 level, but a definite Grade 2 horse. Always runs really well. You know, like you said, he's clear these on ratings. Just would have in the back of my mind, you know, he's out early. Is how tuned up is he going to be? I think it's worth bearing that in mind. You know, I mean, you'd like to think even 80-85% fit, he should be good enough to beat these. But if he comes out at a short price when the prices are out, I'd probably look to avoid him, to be honest, just for the reasons I've just mentioned. I'm sure if we have the conversation about, you know, the likes of these horses, you know, come January time, I imagine he'd have won a novice chase for then, and he'll be looking at Grade 1s and Grade 2s. But for now, I think it'll be about a nice introduction to chasing for him. So not something I'd be piling into at short price. I just think Wendigo's a very, you know, good horse, battled hard and ran well in Grade 1s last year. 2 mile 3 around Chepstow could just be a bit too sharp for him. And again, I think a nice introduction to chasing is going to be the key. And ultimately, his races are going to be over 3 mile on softer ground. So yeah, I just think Doyen Quest, he's had the run at Worcester 27 days ago, ran fine. I can only imagine that was a bit of a prep run for this race. I think Dan won this race a couple of years ago with Unexpected Party, beat Nappers Hill, and Napper's Hill is ultimately probably a better horse than Unexpected Party, but Dan saw an opportunity there to get a few of the better quality summer horses beaten by a fitter, more ready individual. So I think that might be a similar idea here. And Doing Quest, the thing that puts me off, he's a horse probably likes a bigger field. I'm hoping maybe a year, a bit more experience. He might have grown up a little bit, but I think he ticks a few more boxes in terms of being ready and having that run. And this would be a nice pot for Dan to pick up early in the season, 23 grand to the winner. So yeah, I'll go with Doing Quest, but not a massive selection for me.
Yeah, Dan's going to have to chip and stab away at these 20, 30,000 pound pots as absolute much as he can in the early part of the season. Doyen Quest, after his run at Worcester there for you, takes your selection in the novices chase. You would throw a real spanner in the works here, Cossie, if you didn't decide to back Wendigo here for the Jamie Snowden, Gavin Sheehan partnership after putting him up early as a horse to follow early in the season. I doubt you're going to do that.
No, I will stick with Wendigo. Obviously, that's me. I think Matty is right about the 2 mile 3 round Chepstow. Well, anywhere for this horse really would be on the sharp side, and I think like you said, I think Chepstow's a nice track to give a horse a chase debut round, and I'd imagine that's what Jamie Snowden was thinking as well. The Nichols horse, like you said, is well clear on ratings, so you'd think that would take a bit of beating. I'd imagine just for Wendigo, it'll be go for a nice day out, get some experience under his belt, and then next time out maybe look for a 2 mile 6 or 3 mile type of race and go win that. I think it's interesting that Will Mount has joined the Rebecca Curtis team. That was with Nicky Henderson. That looked quite promising in its early days. So it's nice to see Rebecca Curtis getting potentially a nice horse, with what she's done with Haiti Colours, and that's nice to see that she's getting a horse in that could potentially eke out improvement there, change of scenery, and seeing a fence and whatnot. So yeah, that's a nice shout. But yeah, Matty's obviously pointed out Doyen Quest as well. That had some nice wins at Cheltenham last year. I think it was the October meeting or November meeting, maybe had a win there. So yeah, a very good race, I think. But I will stick with Wendigo, but potentially the trick could catch it out. But hopefully it jumps nice and there'd be bigger targets down the line for the season.
Yeah, very possibly. I suppose if the ground holds up for you too, it might not be as big a test as you think it could be. But Wendigo, your horse to follow for the season, who you're going to back up here at Chepstow at the weekend as well. I did just keep it very simple for this one. I do think if Blue King Daru turns his hurdle form into chasing, he probably should just be way too good to win this. I hemorrhaged a lot of money into this horse last year. I think I backed it four or five times, and obviously bar that, I got my money back eventually at Sandown when it won over some very good horses, the likes of Lucky Place, who's going to be another stayers contender for the year. Kit's Bull, who blew up a couple of times, but has shown a lot of promise as well. On the further side of 3 milers, he's been beaten there, but around about the half distance, I think, is exactly what this horse wants. Paul Nicholls has been very keen on him from the get-go, really, and it's been a horse he's put a lot into. I can't stress it enough how big a season this really is for Paul Nicholls going forward for the next 5 or 10 years. Obviously, the bloodstock line is changing. The horses he's got now are good enough to win big races, and I think this is probably one of his perennial contenders come the festivals at the back end of the season. He should be expected to get really, off to a fantastic start here at Chepstow. It's an easy place to pick up a novice victory. There are some good horses in here. I don't think it's the worst novice chase of all time, to be honest, but I would be very expected of Blue King Daru to go out there and do the business on the Sunday part of this fantastic weekend's racing from Chepstow, which we will now wrap up with the Welsh Champion Hurdle on the Sunday, the 317. It's a limited handicap, so don't be too fooled by the name. Celtic Dino ran some absolutely brilliant races last year as your 5-2 favourite for the well-liked Sam Thomas. Dylan Johnson takes the ride there and claims £3 off it at 11 stone 10 at the top of the market. Some good horses in here again, but then again, it's how much are they going to progress? Celtic Dino, I'm going to start with him at the top of the market because I know you've backed him a couple of times last season at decent prices. Very consistent type, really, last year as a 5-year-old. It's been a long time for all of these horses coming back into form. 5-2, 11 stone 10. Does that get the vote with confidence?
I'm going against it today, but it is, when you're looking to have a bet, you want them kind of horses on your side, really consistent, and always gives the rule. And he is a very good horse, but I am looking elsewhere, and I'm going for a horse that's ran more recently in Inside Man for Jane Williams and Kieran Geffins around the 8-1 mark. Is a course winner, ran at Chepstow once and won, so that's a good tick in the box to have. We'll probably have to improve a little bit to get its head in front here, but I just think it's race fit, running against horses that'll come on for the run, and 8-1 could be playing for a place, but I'd rather have an 8-1 place and try play anything else in the race.
Not too strong on that one, but Inside Man there, looking to have fitness on his side there, 8-1 for Jane Williams. I don't like doing it too much, Matty, because you don't always pick the skeleton horses. But if I was to hazard a guess, you were going to take any of these at the top of the market, I think Listen to Your Heart might have something with a bit of affection for you to take here.
No, you're actually wrong for me. I think 2 miles might just be a bit too sharp for her at this current stage in this quality of race. I actually really like a Paul Nicholls horse in this, Tutti Quanti. Heard rumours this horse might be going chasing potentially after this, so I think this is kind of it's almost a free hit for the yard. They'll have him nicely ready and be going all out to win this, and then from there you can decide, does he go for another big handicap hurdle, or do they go and get straight over fences with him? But the fact that Paul's come out and said he's going to target this race, we know, he's not had the greatest couple of seasons, but he's still a master of his trade, and he didn't actually run too badly in the Supreme if you break it down, and we know how good Kopek the Bald was that day, but he was 30 lengths behind, but that might not turn out to be too bad, and then other than that, he's never been out of the top 2, so I think he's still very unexposed, could be very progressive, and I think 5-1's a lovely price, actually.
Nice one there for you then, Tutti Quanti at Paul Nicholls, 5-1 near the top of the market. I was really hoping you were going to go for that skeleton horse too, to kind of just back up a bit of firm confidence for me, because I wasn't 100% sure what to go with this, but I did go with Listen to Your Heart at the end. I just thought 7-1 was a pretty nice price for this, really. You do have to scratch that entry run from last time out, but of course, Be Aware was the first choice there for Skelton that day anyway, so it was one bad run against some very consistent runs last season. Won twice at Newbury, very well. Finished 4 for Taunton, probably not the best run there. 4 for Kelso again, not an awful run really. And I mean, it's kind of just floated its mark around 128, 129, back down to 126 for this limited handicap. And I don't know, I just think that this might be a good enough spot again for Skelton to take a very decent prize at the start of the season. It's a pretty tricky race, really. I wouldn't have a huge bet in it. It would be sort of be Sunday interest, really, with no football on, that kind of thing. But I think Listen to Your Heart at 7-1 might offer a bit of value in the Welsh Champion Hurdle. On to then our naps of the week then. This is a weekly segment we've done from the very start where we bring you our best pick from anywhere, Britain, Ireland, Wales. We've done Dubai. I've done America. You pick a horse, it wins. It's just as simple as that. Doesn't happen every week, but we'll try our best to make sure that we do try and make the prizes as best we can for you. I'll go straight to Cotty then for this one, because of course the master of the tips, really, he would be the one you want to follow out the three of us. If anyone's going to get one right here anyways, it probably would be Cott. And you are going where for yours this weekend?
I am going to go Chepstow on Saturday in the 135 Ames for the James Owen team. This horse won really nicely last time out at Sedgefield, beating a horse who is also entered in it, Lunar Orbit. I'd imagine Sean Bowen will take the ride. He won on it last day, and he seems to ride the majority of James Owen's horses throughout the summer. So that's a big plus. We'll have a £7 penalty, but it's come off the flat. It's a fair flat horse, and I just think the quick turnout will be no bother. Use his experience from Sedgefield to Chepstow, which is a big plus, as some of these are making their hurdle debut, and I'd imagine he'll be up in the van. He'll either make the run in or be prominent, and hopefully use the experience to his advantage, and then kick on towards the last couple of furlongs and win nicely. I'm not too sure what price it'll open up. Nichols does have one entered as well, so that'll probably come for some money. So hopefully we can get a fair enough price and start the Saturday off to a good start.
The speedy hammers there then for you Saturday at Chepstow, looking to get his season off to a rolling start. I'll jump in with mine here quickly because it's a horse that I've always kind of had, a fondness of, really. And towards the end of last season, especially the 2 runs at Cheltenham during the festival and the April meeting, really did start to show a bit of life over hurdles. There's a beginner's chase in Ireland on the Saturday at Ferry House. I think it's the 217 it is, yeah. At O'More Park. There's some very, very good horses in here. I think that Willie Mullins also has Blizzard of Oz, who kind of didn't really show his best over hurdles, but they've always talked highly about that horse. Rich Ritchie, similarly with O'More Park, has always been really big on this. Ran an absolute cracking third at Cheltenham at the festival at 66-1. Ran a really, really good race there. Backed it up then, was unlucky probably not to win at the April meeting as well. Made a lot of the hard, dirty work and was unfortunate not to really stay on that day. But goes into novice chasing this season, and I'm very excited to see how things play out with that horse as well. Paul Townend obviously would have the decision between the two of them. It would be a huge boost if he didn't. Otherwise, it would probably, of course, be Patrick that takes the ride. But I think that it's an exciting, very good, high-class novice chase, and it's a race I'd like to have an app in. And I'm really big on O'More Park this year to really come out and win some big races over the sticks.
Matty, now we've got our cameras on, Bob. You don't have your scarf on.
Yeah,
week one, and you've already managed to get a Rich Ritchie in.
It's sitting right up on the shelf, and when it wins, and we come back in a week's time and do this, expect it to be right on top of Marilyn Monroe there, and it'll be staying there for the rest of the season until Richie's horses start to fail me. But I'm really confident on that one of the weekends. Matty, we'll finish with you then for your nap of the week then. So much good racing from Chepstow, but there's a couple of other jumps cards from around the country. Where are you going to take us for yours?
Gonna stick at Chepstow. I mean, it's a tricky week for a nap. Obviously, the first big jumps meet of the season. I don't want to try and delve into the flat stuff, and so I'm gonna go for the 210 on the Saturday at Chepstow, a novices handicap chase. The Kemble Brewery for Kim Bailey and Matt Nichols. A horse who looked really exciting over hurdles at the start of last season. And then just lost his way. The back end had a lot of weight to carry in the EBF final at Sandown, where he was pulled up. Hopefully put a line through that run. They've said that fences should be the making of this horse, and he doesn't have to carry top weight here with Be Aware being in at the top on 136, so gets a lovely weight of 11 stone 3, and this could just be a nice start to his chasing career. And after this, I imagine it will be definitely a step up in trip and hopefully a step up in grade as well. I think he should go and win here at Chepstow on Saturday.
Nice one for you there, the Kemble Brewery, a nice little pub in Cheltenham that's named after, and won a very nice race at the start of last year. Kim Bailey, not really, had the best last couple of years, really. He's not really near the top of the game, but hopefully he's able to find a bit of form here. Nice little race at the 210 on the Saturday as well at Chepstow. Some good horses making reappearance there, the Kemble Brewery, the one you've managed to pick out. We will finish this week then with a segment that we brought in at the start of last season. That is the Cheltenham choices. Of course, I suppose every podcast does this, and we all sort of are probably a bit naive to it, where we disregard the DRF, Aintree, and other festivals. But at Cheltenham, of course, is where the magic of this season will come down to at the very end. Every week, between the three of us, we'll try and bring you as many anti-post shouts as we possibly can towards races at the festivals, try beat the prices as best we can. Of course, these first couple of weeks, it's difficult to know what you would like to be on. Matty's going to take the week off and hopefully bring us something for next week. I'm going to bring back in as well, who had one at the start of, the very end of last season that he tipped up on the podcast. But just sort of a bit of a reiteration and kind of your thoughts as well on what you think for your first Cheltenham choice of the season and how things might play out for him.
Yeah, I think I'd tip this up, was it probably 2-3 weeks after the festival. The bookmakers made Galloping Deschamps 8-1 for the Gold Cup, which I thought was absolutely crazy. I mean, I'm not gonna say put my neck on the line now and say he's gonna win, but I think 8-1 was superb value. The ground was probably against him in this year's Gold Cup. Was beat fair and square, I guess, by I know the way you're thinking, but it would have been a hell of a lot closer if the ground was more in favour of Galloping des Champs. And I'm still sat here now, and I think it's a good each way bet. You've got Factor Philo, was so dominant in the Ryanair, and one of the biggest bets I had at the festival, and I can't see. I just think that the way he won the Ryanair last time out, why go for the Gold Cup when you can go in the Ryanair? I mean, the prize money for the Ryanair is something like 270 grand, I think. So it's a fair payday, and obviously they have Madgeborough as well. So I'm hoping that Madgeborough will stay at 2 Mile and go to the Champion Chase. Then Factor Fire will be JP's Ryanair horse, and then come to the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Really, I know the way you're thinking will be the favourite probably on the day, and that'll be JP's horse. But apart from that, I don't think Galloping des Champs will have too much to worry about. So for an 8-1 shot, I think that's fair enough. It might be a bit shorter now, I think, with
So roughly
things,
5-1 now, yeah, after the
yeah.
win at Punchestown at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, did come back in a bit, but yeah, I think it's just a solid horse for a solid price for such a good horse, one of the greats.
That he is, yeah, and I'm definitely not going to join you in playing Willy Bingo and guessing where Madgeborough, Factor File, and the other 57 Grade 1 horses are going to go between now and the festival. But we do know Galloping des Champs will, of course, be targeted for the Boodles Gold Cup. 8-1, you put him up at last season. He's already come for some money. We'll see what happens with the John Darkin, whether his price shortens or goes big again, or if he stays solid at 5-1. Not a race, of course, we expect him to win, but definitely, from my perspective, is the horse to beat in the Gold Cup at this stage, anyways, going into next season. That being said, and I always want to make sure that I do this at the start of the season, is throw ones up at like massive, ridiculous prices, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. My selection also this week comes in the Boodles Gold Cup. He's got 2 anti-post markets here because he's also in the Ryanair because of his fantastic performances over 2.5 miles last season as well. But I have been screaming, crying, roaring for this horse to finally get some bigger trips at 3.5 miles. That is Croke Park, one of my favorite horses in training, who's currently 100-1 for the Gold Cup with Paddy Power and a couple of other bookies, 66s in other places. The affection I've had from this horse from day one has been unbelievable, and all he's done is prove people wrong time and time again. Was a Grade 3 and Grade 2 winner over 2.5 and 3 miles as a novice hurdler. Went into novice chasing last season, picked up a 2.5 mile, a 3 mile novice set of Group 1s as well. Was second to Ballyburn over 2 miles, 6 at Leopardstown in the Grade 1 there. His only big blowout of the season came at the very end of the year at Aintree. He was very disappointing, it must be said, in the manifesto when finishing 7th of 9th. That was over 2.5 miles. Yes, he had Grade 1 wins over that Ryanair distance, but arguably the best performance of the lot came over 3 miles in that ridiculed fog race that we only seen bits and parts of. But the way that he came through at Leopardstown over 3 miles last season was really, really impressive. To beat another Jigginstown horse on the day, I've forgotten the name now. But I just really, really like this horse. And yes, to step from winning a 2.5 mile Grade 1 straight up to winning the Gold Cup, I suppose Grey Dawning, we talked about him possibly being able to do that last season, but skipped the festival. I don't know why they skipped the festival in favour of Aintree. I think that given him further distance, the hill to come up, he thrives on undulations. He was fantastic in the wins at Ferryhouse, which is a very up and down track as well as Leopardstown, which has its own hill. So it's a horse I'm so passionate on, and I would love to see him be able to just get to the Gold Cup at any price, really. But I think 100-1, he's definitely one to watch out for this season. That's my final comments on Croke Park. Look at the smile there. Look at the smile. It's always been like this with Croke Park with you, hasn't it? And I don't know why. Why are you so quick to rule them off?
Like Cott said, I can't believe you haven't got the Richie scarf out. And 2, I can't believe you've managed to get Croke Park in the first week of the podcast, and you've mentioned Croke Park and the Gold Cup in the same sentence. I mean, I don't know what Cott will have to say about this, but I can only imagine he's thinking the same as me.
So Croke Park definitely can't win the Gold Cup.
So why are you tipping him up to win a Gold Cup?
I'm asking you. I'm not. So it'd be very stupid of me to say that.
No, he can't win a Gold Cup.
No. What price is he to win the Gold Cup?
100-1.
I'll give you 150s if you want it.
There's my first 5 of the season out the way. So what's that? 700 quid you owe me in March? That'll be nice. Look, you put any horse, anything from 50-1 up to 150-200-1, you know what you're buying into. You're not buying into a guaranteed banker. I mean, I can't stress that enough. There is amazing horses in that company. Like the Gold Cup of the last couple of seasons has been a really good renewal because you've had the likes of Galopin Deschamps, you had I Know the Way You're Thinking. Well, hopefully Jerry Colombe can get back into the picture. That would be nice to see. There's been some good horses, really, but there's no reason he can't run a place, I don't think, in March.
Well, I
I'd
love
be
your
surprised if he even runs in the race.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing.
Well, he's open company now, so his two options would be stay at 2.5 miles for the Ryanair, which he's 50 to 1 for at the minute, or go right up to 3 miles too. I know you're literally gambling on the race, but
I'd say you're more likely to see him in the Grand National than the Gold Cup.
Yeah, well,
possibly.
that National Hunt Chase that Katie Couleurs won last year on the Tuesday.
That's a novice race.
For novices.
Yeah.
How is it?
Yeah. So he's only left with two options really for the festival. He could go to the cross country as well. I don't think that would be too bad for him. But
there's every chance to say that he's not even festival good enough either. We've got to see him running open company yet as well.
True, and it would have been nice to see him have a crack in that Brown Advisory last year, which fell apart. I genuinely think he would have won that
Brown. On that point. Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, I mean, like, what's to say that he goes and wins a grade 3 or a grade 2? I'm not sure what there is for him in Ireland, but he goes and wins well first time out. That might shorten into 50s, and then you go from there. But for now, I'd have to see it unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a completely fair point to make about any 100-to-1 horse, but I've always been big on him, and hopefully we can manage to get him up by the end of the year. If he wins the Gold Cup, I wouldn't worry about coming home for a few weekends. That will do us then for the first and long-lasting edition now with the Big Five Racing. Thank you so much for all of us. If any of you have joined us on YouTube, and of course, we're always available on Spotify and Apple Music as well. You can find us on podcasts anywhere you like, really. Massive thank you to Matty and to Cotty for coming back on. We're going to be here every single week right up until Christmas. A little break then, and then we will be flat to the boards ahead of the Cheltenham Festival. Some people say you can't get excited for it now. I certainly can. I get excited for the Derby when the Lincoln's on. So why can't we do it this time of year as well? Thank you, boys, for coming on. And thank you all for joining us. We will see you next week. Take care, folks.